Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the brief history and geography of Ahafo in Ghana. Now I'm starting with the tablet, mostly because there's not a lot of good pictures to show you on Google Earth itself. But Ahafo is sort of a brand new area that was created in Ghana. So when you Google it, you don't get a lot of results. When you type it into Google Earth, it says there are no results. So it is this area right here. So why don't we start with, let me highlight the capital city here of Gwasso, just so there's a pin in it. I'm going to zoom out so you can see exactly where we are in the world. You know, like the slideshow for Gwasso is like people's homes and stuff. It's not great. So here's where we are in the world. Here's Western Africa. We're here along the Guinea coast, but Ahafo does not border the ocean. It is landlocked. So that is where we are. Let me close that up. Like I said, Gwasso is the capital. There are quite a few little cities, like we're going to talk about Mim. There is Bechem, Dwayao and Kwanta up here. But you can see that Kumasi, like the second largest city in Ghana, is just right over here. So these little towns don't even compare to the major cities of Ghana. Ahafo is considered one of the breadbasket areas of Ghana. It has a lot of farms. You can see that if I zoom in up here. Let's look. Doesn't look like much. Here we go. Some more farming areas you can see over here by Dama. The main crop grown is actually an export crop. It is cocoa. We are in the heart of cocoa country along the Guinea coast and Ghana and Ivory Coast. Pretty much, if you eat like Cadbury's chocolate, it's coming from here. Isn't that cool? But there's also lots of other like locally grown fruits and pretty much just lots of like trees and things. This is definitely the more farming area. If you head down here, you can see lots of the trees, but you can actually tell that the timber industry is hard at work in this area. You can see from above little sections that get knocked down for the timber, right? You can also see a big mine over here. Where'd it go? It's huge. Oh, I lost it. It's a huge mine. How did I lose it? Let me zoom out. Right here. No? There it is. Okay. I'm about to go crazy. No, there's a huge mining area right here. There, you can see it from up here. Huge mining area here. But the main economy is around farming and crops and things like that. So, I'm trying to think of what else to show you in terms of geography. Just lots of forested area. You can see. I didn't actually look at this. Oh, how beautiful. Maybe we have one slideshow to look at. No, we don't. Just one picture. That's what I mean. There's just like not really many good pictures to show you of this area of Ghana. I really tried to find them. It came out mostly like that. So the history of this area was also really hard to find because Ahafo used to be part of other districts that's been renamed. It used to be called Brong Ahafo, kind of like this huge overarching area around the Ashanti area. And most of the information I found was about the other areas, not Ahafo itself. And a lot of sources that I found for Ahafo, let me put this away. Let me show you the real map over here. So we are, put this over here. Okay. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. We're over here. You can see the Tunnel River right here as well. most of the information I found was either behind a paywall, it was like a research documents and papers, or there are a lot of cool books I found on Amazon, but I don't make that much money off YouTube to buy random books to read about histories of very tiny corners of Africa. And I found a lot of first-hand sources from stories that have been passed down, but they were all in Twi. At least I assume it's Twi. And I don't speak Twi, so that doesn't help me. So I've found little bits and pieces around the internet, and I think I've compiled the story of how this area came to be. So the main indigenous people here were the Aowin, I believe it's pronounced the Aowin. And they were, of course, right next to Kumasi, the capital of the Ashanti Empire. Let me give you some Ghana backstory first of all. A lot of the ethnic groups entered into this region pretty late in African migratory history. Think 1400s, 1500s, even 1600s were when groups started migrating into this area, kind of being pushed out of this area, heading over here. The Ashanti were the biggest and baddest of them all. They were very fierce warriors. They were very territorial. They had a very, very strong sense of community. They still have an amazing mythology and rituals, all those things. Very, very fascinating culture, but very, very brutal to pretty much any other group living in this area. They were under their thumb for sure. So the Aowin people lived just over here in the forest. It wasn't developed. They literally lived in the jungle, right? No major villages or anything. They were jungle people. So our story begins when the great Asantehene Osei the first, kind of like the first great amazing leader of the Ashanti, right? The first big famous one, was killed. And his son, Opokuwari I, became the Asantehene, and his first plan was to get revenge for the death of his father. So he left Kumasi to fight out with the people who assassinated his father. The Aowin people, I guess, thought, this is our chance. We're gonna go capture Kumasi, the capital of the Ashantis, the biggest of the baddest of the tribes. We're gonna go wreck their capital. And they did. The Aowin prince led the attack on Kumasi. His name was Abili Moro. I believe it's pronounced Abili Moro. Opokuwari heard about this, went, oh, no, and left, ditched the plan to avenge his father and went back to Kumasi. And as he did so, he gathered all the chiefs that were loyal to the Ashanti in the area and said, we are going to go beat these people up for attacking my capital city. And they chased Abili Moro out of Kumasi through the jungles here to try to capture him and get revenge. They called this the Abili Moro War. It lasted for quite a few years. He was on the run. But they did eventually catch up to him and kill him. So the Ashanti wound up absorbing the Aowin territory over here. And there's some discrepancies about where the name Ahafo comes from. I found two different sources saying two completely different things. One of them said that it came from an Ashanti phrase, which means, let me check my notes, make sure I get it right. The Ashanti phrase, there's plenty to eat. Because the Ashanti came here and went, wow, this land is very, very fertile. And they're growing tons of food. There's plenty to eat. Ahafo. Another source I read said that the name comes from an Ashanti word for hunters. Because once the Ashanti took this region over, they assigned the Aowin people to be hunters, to hunt food for the Ashanti. So whichever one it is, that's the one it is. They're both great origin names. Once the Ashanti took over, this is when major towns started to grow. The town of Mim, which you saw was like right here. The name comes from an Ashanti word for palm trees because, one, there's lots of palm trees, and two, they relied on palm trees for hiding while they were out hunting and for all of the uses that, like, the bark and the leaves offer. So, a lot of the names came from Ashanti terms apparently, but I couldn't find any of the others. And that was pretty much it for the history of the area. Still very, very interesting, right? But I searched high and low for anything else, and that was about it. Of course, it's down tight in with the rest of the history of Ghana. It became a British colony called the Gold Coast. They attained independence in, I believe 1960. The first West African country to attain independence. It's a big point of pride in Ghana. So, right before independence in 1959 was when the area of Ahafo was formed. And again, that was Ahafo and kind of like the overarching area up here. Again, the bread belt, so to say, the breadbasket of Ghana. And it wasn't until 2019 that they decided to split up the regions. They made a bunch of new ones, including Ahafo. And that's pretty much where we are in the history of Ahafo. I found some wonderful little videos of tours of the towns in there. I guess if you search Ahafo on YouTube, the first thing that comes up is like the Ghanaian Darman. I guess there's a friends here that make Darman style videos, which is adorable. It's a very fun video style to replicate. And yeah, it just seems like it's a little farm area. Life is slow, life is good. So that's where I'm going to leave it for tonight. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this kind of content, please consider subscribing because I'm going over every single area in the world. Next, we'll be going to Turkmenistan, and I promise you there's a lot more history and a lot more to look at on Google Earth there. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a very good